Hello and welcome to Odds Law with Fitzdares, the show that uses the odds and the data to bring you the stories behind the sport. I am joined once again by the wonderful Iain McIntosh.
Hello.
Hello, Iain. As we prepare to discuss the burning bin fire that is Tottenham Hotspur's season so far and whether getting rid of Thomas Frank will actually help them. And while Brentford, Thomas Frank's former club, are flying up the table, whether Brentford might even be buzzing off on a European tour in May. All that to come. But first, we're going to play Two Truths and a Lie. Are you ready?
I don't think I'm ever ready for this. I'm still recovering from the shambles that was the first one, but go on.
It feels like you've got better at it.
Yeah, I think I've put a lot more work and concentration into actually understanding the concept of the game.
I hope you're generally taking this whole podcast thing a bit more seriously.
Yeah.
Okay, number one, the Brazilian defender Dante is not only still playing, he is captaining Nice at the age of 42 and has been name-checked by the Brazil manager as a potential member of the World Cup squad this summer.
That does feel plausible.
Number two, and in a similar vein, Edin Dzeko, aged 39, I can't believe he's 39, scored twice for his new club Schalke on Saturday to become the oldest ever player to score a brace in the Bundesliga too.
I did see something about him scoring, but I didn't check which team.
Number three, Spurs, 36%, had a higher proportion of goals scored from set pieces than any other team in the Premier League this season. That
feels like a lie.
You're wrong.
What?
You're wrong.
Good God.
And obviously we'll get into talking about that in the rest of the show. But this is the great Thomas Frank conundrum, as he did actually make them really good at set pieces.
I just figured they were rubbish at everything.
Turns out they were good at set pieces in both boxes, but bad at literally everything else.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the damning numbers that underpin Tottenham's woeful season so far. But first of all, I want to ask you, just to kick things off, do you think it's fair that he got the sack?
Well, as you know, usually I'm very defensive of managers, and I'll always say, give them the rest of the season, but there was no defending this, unfortunately. Ironic, given the goals that they let in. When you look at the positives, it doesn't take very long. I mean, there's a good start. There's a solid performance against PSG, at that time considered the best team in the world, and the win over Manchester City. That's it, I'm out. There are some things that I feel sorry for him for. A lot of creative players got injured. Maddison was out, Kulusevski was out. Solanke, when he's been in, has shown signs of being the centre forward that they need, but he hasn't been fit enough. And you could also say that, did they spend too long weighing up whether or not to sack Ange Postecoglou because he didn't get to start until mid-June? Players that he was after, like Mbeumo, had already gone by then, so maybe he was a little bit hamstrung. But the fact of the matter is that, with very few exceptions, in the Premier League at least, I can't recall watching Tottenham play and not thinking, what are they doing? I don't even know what the plan is. Like, you couldn't sit there and say, oh, they're a short passing team and it will take time to build up familiarity. That wasn't the case. You couldn't say they're a long ball team and that's not working out, because that wasn't the case, except it was sometimes, and then it was. There was just no discernible style to them. And sometimes you get managers who start poorly, like Brendan Rodgers at Liverpool, to use one close to your heart.
He's not close to my heart in any way.
Well, they got gubbed by West Brom on his first game, I think, conceding 3.
I remember that.
At Anfield. Some of them were really stupid.
It was at the Hawthorns.
It was at the Hawthorns, sorry. Age wearies the brain. But all of those early weak performances you could look at and you go, it's all right, I see what he's trying to do and this could work. You couldn't see it with Thomas Frank, and the numbers are just, 2 wins in 17, that's relegation form.
Let's dive into those numbers, because I'm broadly in your camp of wanting to be defensive of managers, and I am.
Well, on a slot, you've sacked him 4 times this season.
Dear viewer, that is a very separate issue. We'll come to that another day. We have come to it on many days on this show. But look, let's look at the numbers, because I do think that, you've mentioned a few, winning 2 of their last 17, but there are some really shocking ones. So in terms of just general poor form, most Premier League defeats since the start of last season, Tottenham have 33 defeats 33 Premier League defeats since the start of last season. The only team with more, can you guess the only team with more?
Must be Wolves.
Correct, 39. But they're in miserable company, really, with Wolves, West Ham, Fulham, Brentford, interestingly, and Nottingham Forest. But that's not where they see themselves as a football club. And generally, this run that they've been on, so they're now winless in their last 8 Premier League games. And that is their third run of this kind since the start of the 24-25 season, where previously they hadn't gone as many matches without a win since May to October 2008, when Juan de Ramos was injured.
Wow, 2.8 games down to the bare bones Harry Redknapp to save them. Could that happen again? Probably
Could
not.
it?
Probably not.
But I think it goes deeper than just bad form and kind of a general malaise at the club, because I think, the reason they brought Thomas Frank in was, from the outside, fairly obvious. They wanted to get away from the slightly cavalier attacking football that they played under Ange and stabilise things. And to an extent, he has done that, which we'll come to on the stats. But what's been really apparent is, like you were saying, no attacking identity at all. So Richarlison scored just 7 times in the league, but Kudus, Simons, Odobert, Tell and Rando Kolo Muani have managed just 6 between them. That's really bad. And they've also been responsible for the 2 lowest XG games, or 2 lowest XG performances in the Premier League this season. And I think you can probably trace, when you say this one's been coming and you can't really defend it, you can trace it back to that defeat at home to Chelsea, where they generated an XG of just 0.1 at home.
I didn't realise it was that high, because I watched that game. In fact, I had a friend, she was with a new partner, and he was a Tottenham season ticket holder. And they were very new in their relationship. And he said, I'll take you to Tottenham, because she'd never been to a football match. And we saw them before they went, and she was so excited. And I said, you're right to be excited. Like, Tottenham, brilliant stadium, Chelsea, ferocious rivalry. What an evening you're in for. And I watched that game, and it was one of the worst games certainly I've seen this season, but possibly in a number of years. And that was the archetypal, I don't know what they're doing here. I don't think they know what they're doing here. And I don't know if that couple are still together. Because if that is your idea of a big date early in the relationship, you've compromised the relationship.
I think, I just don't want to sound mean, but any date around Tottenham Hotspur, I'd just say is broadly a red flag. But they've only scored 36 goals, which is fewer than just 8 other teams. And what's kind of, we can talk about damning numbers. There's so many damning numbers, but it's the fact that they've outperformed their XG more than any other team.
Both ways as well.
By plus 8.6. So they've basically scored 9 more goals than they should. That is terrifying.
And we've been talking about this all season on Route 1, that they were right from the start outperforming the goals that they should score and outperforming the goals that they should concede as well. So when regression came, it came not in single spies but in battalions. It was absolutely brutal. But I think there were other issues there, and so this is a terrible thing for me to say, because Thomas Frank, by all accounts, is a really, really nice guy. And on a personal level, what he'll be going through right now is an unenviable experience, I'm sure. But when you get a sacking like this, you know that suddenly all the players and all the agents are going to talk, and buy the Athletic subscription and you read your 3,000 word long read. It tells you all the stuff behind the scenes. From what I've heard, the man management wasn't there in so much like he, really lovely guy. It wasn't that he was bad with them. It's just there wasn't a lot of strength there as a character to walk into the dressing room and go, right, I'm in charge. This is what we're doing. There were rumours of players just going, don't really know what the plan is or what the rules are. I think you'll get lots of stuff coming out.
That's 100% borne out in terms of, we're saying they don't have a clue. They have a clue what they're doing defensively on set pieces and attacking wise on set pieces, but you can actually see it. So they rank 14th out of 20 Premier League teams this season for progressive passes. So that's open play successful passes played in the attacking 2/3 of the pitch that move the ball at least 25% closer to the goal. So that's 20.1 they're making per game, and just 44.5 line breaking passes per game. So nobody, if you take that at face value, people either aren't where people aren't in a position to receive those passes. People aren't confident to make those passes. And that suggests there's kind of a fundamental disconnect across the team in literally just passing networks.
Well, they just kept getting caught in that weird horseshoe where the ball would go out to the flank and then there'd be no real option. So it would come back around the flank into the middle where all the defensive midfielders were. And then it would go out to the other one and they'd try that. And then it would come back to the middle. And it was maddening. But outside of all of this, all of the numbers, also the man management issues that showed up when they were losing games and players were, Thomas Frank was go and applaud the fans and they weren't doing it. It didn't look joined up at all. So while I'd never usually support the sacking mid-season of a manager, they were gone. And there was a point the night before we record this where West Ham were beating Manchester United and the gap was 3 points with 12 games to go, which is basically no points. Tottenham, with all of their revenues, as well run as they are off the pitch, are in a proper relegation battle now.
I'm going to talk about mitigating factors, which seems like, a bit of a non sequitur, given we've just spent the last 5 minutes, really, really trashing them, to be honest. But I think there are mitigating factors for Thomas Frank. And I think the biggest one is this question of, like you said, Spurs do have all this revenue and they do have good players, I think it's fair to say, but they finished 17th last season and they lost 22 games. And also it's not exactly it's a well-trodden path at Spurs in terms of managers, some, more qualified than Frank, you could argue, that have failed. So there's a list of proven winners that haven't succeeded there. Jose Mourinho, Antonio Conte, Nuno to a certain extent, and Ange, who, missed a second season, always won trophies in his second season, which he did. But I suppose the question is, did the Pochettino era falsely inflate people's expectations of what Tottenham actually are?
I don't think it did. I think the Pochettino era, which I think peaked with the Champions League final, was a great generation of players all coming to their peak at roughly the same time. There was, it was a good style of football. There was a good spirit in the camp. They were a really good team. I think they came second twice. Am I right? Second twice and third once, or the other way around. But even so, to do that in an era of Manchester City, of Chelsea, of Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool, they were a really, really good team. The problem is that now you're standing on the wreckage of everything that followed. So you have a 2-year Mourinho era, which is completely toxic. I don't know what they were thinking of bringing him in. He's the antithesis of a Tottenham manager. They replace him with Nuno. I mean, again, it's deep-lying, counter-attacking. But
that lasted. How long was Nuno in charge for? I mean, it was
barely 3 months.
Still managed to beat Man City.
And still managed to win Manager of the Month in August. What a run. Conte, another one. What the hell was Conte doing in charge? That's a terrible hire for a club like Tottenham. And by the end of it, as toxic as the Mourinho era, with him apparently just sort of shopping himself for a better job, which, for all that we take the mickey out of Tottenham, they didn't deserve that. The Ange era was fun. And if it was me, I wouldn't have sacked him after that. I would have just said that was a terrible season for injuries. There was a period where there were just no defenders. Poor old Archie Gray playing week in, week out as a centre-back. I would have said, come on, let's just give a third season a go. If it's not working in November, then maybe we can make a change.
Let's pick up on the injuries, because it's not just Ange that struggled with injuries. Thomas Frank... Oh, and apparently Ange said that Kulusevski would just be out for a few weeks in May, and he's literally not been seen since. So that's obviously a serious injury, and he's, arguably Tottenham's best player. And then Maddison had that serious ACL injury in pre-season. Solanke, their, star striker, £60 million player, has been missing for months and come back and been quite good, 2 goals since he's come back. Kudus, serious injury. Richarlison's often been suffering from injury. And I think I'm right in saying that as of this moment, Tottenham have 13 first-team players out injured. So there are mitigating factors. There are mitigating factors in that, they were operating very much on these form lines last season in terms of the 17th place finish. And he's had terrible luck with injuries.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to finish the point before, what he's dealing with is a squad of people that Mourinho has bought because they're Mourinho players, and then Nuno's bought because they're Nuno players. So it's all fractured, and it's not, you can't get that sort of cohesion that you need in a team that's had that many managers and that many sporting directors. So it was a hard job, but you get the Tottenham job because you're supposed to be able to do hard jobs. It's one of the biggest jobs in European football in terms of the revenue coming into that place, and the expectations both in performance and style. It is a really hard job, and it wasn't the right one for him.
So reluctantly, are we both going to conclude that it was justified?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I'm genuinely surprised it lasted as long. I think we spoke to a lot of Tottenham fans on the podcast, and they could see it long before Christmas that this was not going to work at all.
Maybe you should listen to fans when they say they're discontented with their manager.
Depends what they're saying.
Instead of calling them insane and
rabid.
trying to get them sectioned, all the things.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was a half chance at getting it taken away. The heart wasn't really in it. But yeah, they could see that they were in for another Nuno there, where it just wasn't going to work. And we spoke about this on a show a few weeks ago. We were saying time is not a guarantee that everything will be good. People always go, "Oh, Sir Alex Ferguson, he wasn't any good for the first 4 years." Time doesn't necessarily mean that you will be good. Sometimes you just have to look at it and go, Roy Hodgson at Liverpool, it's not working.
Roy Hodgson at Liverpool had a better record in his final 20 games than Arne Slot has had.
Wow. We're right back on sacking Arne Slot.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, we're going to go to a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about Brentford. Welcome back. And just to make matters even worse for poor Thomas Frank, who, as Iain said, does seem like a very nice chap. His old club Brentford have just gone from strength to strength since he left. They're on course for a record Premier League points total led by former set-piece coach Keith Andrews. And it looks like there's a very good chance those bees could be buzzing off on a European tour come May. So, Brentford, how impressed have you been this season?
Stunned, absolutely stunned, because when we were on this show in August talking about teams to be relegated, we were all saying, I think it's going to be really hard for Brentford. You lose a manager who's been there for so long, you lose all of that coherence, you bring in a rookie manager. I wish nothing but the best for him, but I didn't really fancy his chances. I thought, odds on for first manager to be sacked, but he's been brilliant. He's been really calm. They have had bad runs of form here and there, and he hasn't panicked, and he's been able to lean on in every way that the Tottenham squad is so fractured, the Brentford squad is so well put together, because that's what happens when you've got joined up thinking.
10 points better off Brentford and 9 places better off than Spurs. Just to contextualise it, their 39-point return from 25 games is their best effort at this stage of a Premier League season, beating the 38 they managed in 22-23. I think it's quite interesting, though, that you talk about joined-up thinking, because as we will uncover throughout this section as we talk about Brentford, is although this is a particularly good season and the numbers look particularly good for them, a lot of the trends go back years to 22-23, for example, which again is not such a good look for Thomas Frank, but is a very good look for Brentford Football Club in terms of having a plan and having people on the same page across the football club. Yeah.
Remember, Brentford got absolutely pilloried for this back about 10 years ago. They sacked Mark Warburton, because I think Mark Warburton and McFarlane, the former Liverpool director of football, wanted to have full control over transfers, and the board weren't having any of it, and they were flying at the time. They were in and around the playoffs, and Brentford got hammered for sacking him. But that's because the system rules out over everything. They have people who don't do anything on the day-to-day basis. They're only looking forwards. And when you look at the people that they've brought in and the places that they've come from, I mean, it's a scouting system second to none. I've actually been in their weird geek cave, which is in North London.
I don't think you're allowed to call it that.
Well, nerd lair, whatever you want to go with. It's a long room with banks of computers running all the way down it, filled with sort of teenage boys watching second division Hungarian games and frantically making notes. They have their own data set, so they don't use standard sort of Opta XG. They have their own stuff that they do, and they are pouring through every game that's played everywhere, ranking the players, compiling the data, and then up the line it goes to people who then take it to the next stage.
I think it's just like when the kind of the microcosm of that smartness when it comes to the numbers is if you look at the big strikers that they've sold in recent years.
Tony.
That's who I was trying to remember. Watkins, Ivan Toney, Mbeumo this summer. Like, they've replaced all of those players without missing a beat. So this summer they lost Mbeumo, Wissa, and the captain, Christian Norgard, and the goalkeeper, Flecken. And they brought in Ouattara, who at the time everyone thought they overpaid for.
Yeah, nearly 40 million quid.
And everyone was going, I don't know about that one. 5 goals and 1 assist in 19 Premier League games. Only Cole Palmer, with 7 goals in 14 games, has more goals after having played fewer than 20 games this season. And also, I think what's interesting with Brentford, and strikes me that it's probably deliberate given their kind of general approach to marginal gains, he's won 4 penalties, which is twice as many as any other player in the league this season. And it, just as luck would have it, they have the best penalty taker in the league.
Yeah, who turned out to be a 30 million signing from Club Bruges, where Tottenham probably aren't going to sign any players. There's one interesting story. It was in The Athletic when I think it was when Ange Postecoglou came into Tottenham. He was really displeased by the standard of the scouting department and sort of took him to task for it. And what came back was, well, why should we bother? Because every year it's just the guy upstairs who just makes a decision based on the agent. I should clarify that they were talking about Daniel Levy and not God.
I thought you were talking about God.
He is ineffable and moves in mysterious ways. But that doesn't happen at Brentford. At Brentford, everything has a process and a reason. And just when you look at where some of the players are coming, I mean, Kevin Schade and Mark Flecken, both from Freiburg, a particularly unglamorous German team that I don't think Tottenham would be looking at and going, oh, he's good for Freiburg, I'll get him. They've also done the Fulham trick very well in grabbing people from big clubs who aren't quite good enough for the big clubs. In Sepp Vandenberg, centre-back, 20 million quid. Again, looks expensive.
Well,
but
Queevy Kelleher, who is an absolute hero for what he did in 2 League Cup finals at Wembley. He is unbelievable at saving penalties, which, again, if you think about marginal gains, Brentford will have thought about that. They will have thought marginal gains in terms of let's have the best Premier League penalty taker in Europe as our striker, and let's have the best goalkeeper at saving penalties in the goal. So that's 3 penalties he's saved. He also has the highest save percentage from shots outside the box, 93%. And, again, that strikes me as they probably try in the way that they defend to force teams to have those shots from outside the box. Other interesting things about Brentford is they come on strong late. So they have scored 14 goals from the 76th minute or later, and that's the joint most in the Premier League this season, along with Liverpool. And it's 12 more than they managed in the same period of games in the whole of last season. So that strikes me as another marginal gain where they've gone away and they've tweak something in the formula to elicit that improvement.
Yeah, absolutely. Keith Andrews has obviously got them playing or conducting themselves very, very professionally. We know about the set pieces, of course, but fundamentally, you now look at that team and you go, that's a really good team. I mean, Damsgaard, who's 15 million from Sampdoria, there's a case in point. Damsgaard's a tremendous player.
He is. I bet you think they're really good at corners, though, Brentford.
I would have thought they were really good at corners.
They've only scored twice
from
corners in the whole season.
God,
they're the worst.
Get that in a half.
Yeah, but they've been one of the most productive teams from open play, which kind of tallies with what you're saying about just being a good team. So 72% of their goals have come from open play, and only City and Liverpool have a higher proportion of their goals from open play.
Bloody hell!
So they're just good at football.
Yeah, there it is. That's why you listen. Brentford, good at football.
But there was one stat that I said to you off air that I think. Your eyebrows raised almost up to your hairline.
It's got a little way to go now.
Quite a significant raise. That Brentford have the highest XG per shot of any team in the Premier League this season at 0.16. But they have been the league leaders in this going back to 22-23. So it is a historic trend, but it's really smart.
Yeah, it is very smart because clearly the data boys have gathered around with the players and gone, it's really lovely when you take a long shot and it must feel amazing when it goes in, but the XG is so low that all you're really doing is just kicking the ball out of play most of the time.
I do want to put an asterisk on what you're saying.
Go
that
on.
is very true unless your name is Morgan Rogers or Dominic Szoboszlai.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, Szoboszlai particularly. But in general, for mortals at least, it doesn't really work. So if you don't do that and you just keep the ball moving forward, the XG on your chance should be higher. It's one of those things that if a guy with a laptop is explaining it to you and you're a professional footballer, say 5 or 6 years ago, that's a big leap of faith to believe the nerd. But
well, they did. Because
always believe the nerds.
You should. And they listened. Because 97% of their goals have been from inside the penalty area. And that is the biggest percentage in the league. So it just shows, you're right. People should listen to the nerds.
Can't hear that enough.
But I think, actually, just to kind of round things off here, I think the interesting comparison between Brentford and Tottenham is that, the reality is a club like Brentford, with the resources that they have, I think people are just more open-minded to the data and to unconventional methods and marginal gains, whatever they may be. Whereas when you walk in at Tottenham and you need to earn the respect of a dressing room and you have players in there that have masses of international caps and some of whom have won, Romero, World Cup winner, players that have won big trophies throughout their career, it's just harder to say things like, no, don't shoot from outside the box.
Yeah, and maybe that was also the root cause of the problem. That's what they needed.
Okay, so to finish here, I'm going to do that again. Okay, to round up on Brentford, I'm going to ask you, they are currently a 5-2 chance to finish in the top 6. That is a 28.6% chance, if you like your percentages.
I do.
Do you think that's on the cards, a top 6 finish?
I think it's an absolutely fair number. I was the person who about 2 or 3 weeks ago said I could see them just tailing off now. Job's done, relegation's avoided, and they haven't done that at all. They're going to be so fresh as well. They didn't go particularly far in the cups. Or not yet. So they're playing far fewer games than everybody as well at a time. They're going to be meeting teams who are going deep in Europe. And they're having to rotate. And there's definitely the possibility of picking up more points than you might expect. I'm torn, though, as to whether I want it for them.
This is what I was going to ask you. Obviously, if you're a Brentford fan, you're getting very excited about, you're going to get your passport renewed if you need to. And doing all the other things that you have to do when you travel. But look at Palace, I would never begrudge, obviously, European aways. Have you ever been on one?
Well, Southend were in the Anglo-Italian Cup in the 90s, but I was too young. I wasn't allowed to go. Where I was being told yesterday, I didn't remember this, but Gabriel Batistuta scored a hat-trick against us.
Wow. Southend are definitely the biggest club in the
National League.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll gloss over that. But what I want to say was, look at Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
Look at Crystal Palace. It's a poison chalice at times. I didn't mean that to rhyme, but it did.
Do you know, I was lucky enough to do a one-on-one interview with Roberto Martinez when he was the Everton manager, and he was lovely, like every bit as lovely as you've heard, smiling and laughing all the way through. And right at the end of the interview, I said, are you worried? Because it just qualified for Europe. So do you worry that's going to be too much of a strain? And, would it be better if you just, because it's only Europa League, would it be better if you sent the reserves out and focused on getting in the top 4? It's the only time he looked cross. Really? He was like, no, this is what, we're in a competition. We're here to win it. We're going to play our best team in all of those games because this is what football's about. It's really, really firm. And he got sacked. I think he survived that season, but I think they finished 11th. And they were challenging properly for top 4 finishes.
That was the season of that infamous clip of Tony Hibbert. Because I remember it because it had the Europa League branding on it. But viewers, if you haven't seen it, definitely we'll put a link in the show notes. It's worth watching.
Or search Tony Hibbert stepovers.
Yes,
it's a magical moment.
So Brentford top 6.
I think they can do it. I just don't think they should do it.
That seems reasonable. Having just waxed lyrical about Brentford, a team who we expected to be in the muck and bullets of a relegation fight at the beginning of the season. Let's now turn our attention back to poor old Tottenham and ask, do you really think they could be in relegation trouble?
Oh, they are in relegation trouble. There's no question of it. 5-point gap now. There's no safety in that. They need to get, generally 36 points will keep you safe. I think it might be a little bit more. It might be 37, 38 this time.
And their next game is the North London derby.
Oh, God. This is not going to be pretty for them. A lot will come down to who comes in, whether they do bring in someone immediately to be the manager or whether they go for an interim manager. But would you take that risk? An interim boss for a, blood and thunder fight in a pub car park relegation battle?
There are some obvious candidates. We'll come to who should replace them. But if it is that, if that's how we're viewing it as, a real scrap to beat the drop, then there are some obvious candidates who are currently unemployed that would you'd feel confident would keep them up. But I just want to give you a statistic that I think, of all the statistics that we've spoken about on this show, is possibly the most damning for Thomas Frank, and that is Tottenham are 6-1 to be relegated, but 500-1 to finish in the top four. So that's a 14.3% chance to be relegated versus a 0.2% chance of getting top four. And way back in October, I said to you that I didn't think this Tottenham team, and I included Thomas Frank in that, was fit for purpose because the goal at the start of the season is, for them, Champions League football. And to be that far away from that, to have a 0.2% chance of that in February and be 500-1, I think that tells you that, things have gone wrong, but they haven't just gone wrong, they've gone catastrophically wrong.
And I think the only good thing, and you really have to want this to be good, is that I think they know now. And I don't think they did at the weekend. I said on social media that they had the same amount of points as Leeds at the time. Leeds having just done Forest 3-0. And no Leeds fan would have said, that's it, 3-0, we're out of trouble. For Leeds, very, very much still in the woods. So if Tottenham are on level points, they're in the woods. This is real. But now they have realised and they've taken action. That can sometimes have a sort of catalytic effect. But also it can terrify players.
Well, let's talk about who in our opinion should replace Thomas Frank. So I'm just going to run you through the market. Roberto De Zerbi, and this is to be the next permanent manager. We'll talk about interims as well. But Roberto De Zerbi having it blew up spectacularly at Marseille very suddenly. Who's surprised about that? He is evens to be the next Tottenham manager. Pochettino, who obviously would be engaged until, at least this summer with the World Cup with his contract with the USA, but he's 6-1. Oliver Glasner, who we know is leaving Palace at the end of the season, 14-1. Robbie Keane, I think is he managing in Ireland?
No, Ferencváros in Hungary, and apologies for mauling that name.
See, I was so confused about what team could he possibly be talking about?
So he was at Maccabi Tel Aviv, and obviously when the war started, that became very problematic. He was out of there. He went to Ferencváros in Hungary, where he had some real eye-catching European results. Won the title last season, currently top of the table on goal difference, admittedly. But there is, there's some pedigree there. This is not a kind of, I think when an ex-striker is linked with a job, you always think, is this just, kind of translating glamour into a different format? It's like he made us happy as a player, so maybe he'll make us happy as a manager. But he's done his time. He's been a coach with various people, various clubs. He was at Leeds for a little bit, and he's done his time at less glamorous jobs. So if you're looking for someone who has potential and a club link, he's an interesting one. And last I saw was about 10-1 as well.
I'm trying to think if there's ever been a striker that's been a really good manager.
Oh,
it's
we
hard.
should ask me this before. Kenny Dalglish.
Okay, yeah.
Deep lying forward. But,
Kenny. But midfielders tend to make the best managers.
They do. We're forgetting the best one, though. Alex Ferguson. Centre forward for Rangers.
Was it? Okay. Well, that is exposing me a bit, but I'm thinking about the current crop because the next two names on this list, 20-1, the pair of them, Xavi, former Barcelona midfielder, and Xabi Alonso, who I've got my eye on
Yes.
for other purposes. But yeah, he is also 20-1.
I mean, there's no question Xabi Alonso would be the absolute best hire. But, I mean, you'd have to get him pretty drunk first, I think. I mean, that's a 5-6 pint decision, isn't it? When you wake up, oh, God, my head, did I do anything stupid last night? And there is a 3-year contract with Tottenham Hotspur.
So I mean, we can't predict the future, but if at the start of next season, who of that list or anyone who isn't on that list do you expect to be the top?
This is the hardest thing because now Tottenham are going into negotiations because all the best people are available next season. Pochettino, Marco Silva, Oliver Glasner, Iraola, all for different reasons would be perfectly good candidates. But Tottenham can't guarantee Premier League football. If you're one of those managers, knowing that you're hot, that there's going to be jobs, that everything gets shaken up in a World Cup year, I mean, would you take it with that 14% at current risk that you're going to be a Championship manager?
I think it will be Poch, but he can't really agree to anything anyway until after the World Cup. And personally, for what it's worth, I think that is not a good decision because he'll finish the World Cup when? And July?
Yeah.
Mid-July?
Yeah.
And then
he'll be knackered.
Have, hardly any time because pre-season starts beginning of July. It will be a nightmare. So I do think I've heard things he's said in interviews and I also don't think it's ever a good idea to go back even.
Now, I'm glad you said that because I just did a little check about the never go back thing. Because as a Southend fan, some of our happiest times were under David Webb, and then he came back and he sort of stabilised us at a really important time, much as Kenny Dalglish did on a slightly higher level with Liverpool.
2 cup finals.
2 cup finals, yeah. One of which you beat a lower league team, I think.
Cardiff.
Successfully on penalties.
Yes.
That must make you very proud. Harry Redknapp, twice at Portsmouth, both brilliant. Tony Pulis, twice at Stoke, second time much better than the first. David Moyes at West Ham, David Moyes at Everton.
Jose Mourinho came back and won the league.
Chelsea, yeah. And Carlo Ancelotti.
And Jurgen Klopp coming back to Liverpool.
Oh, bless you. So it's not necessarily a terrible thing to go back. But I think it is a terrible thing to go when your 2-year professional career has all been leading up to one hugely stressful moment and it finishes shortly before your next really stressful period begins. Yeah. He'll be knackered and he won't have had the prep time that maybe... If it was me, I'll go Glasner. I think he's got the strength of personality, as we've seen in recent weeks. I think he's a brilliant tactician. I think he could get that dressing room under control. And he'd probably be the one I'd go for, or Marco Silva for similar-ish reasons.
Okay, final question. Are they going down?
God, it's not the soundbite you want haunting you, is it? I don't think they will. But they could. And I think 14% still feels a bit low. I would consider them, 25% to go down.
I would go as far as to say that the next 12 days are arguably the most important 12 days in the history of the football club.
What?
Because if they get it wrong, you're right. If they go and lose to Arsenal with West Ham in much better form, Forest just got beaten by Leeds, but Forest have stabilised under Dyche. If they go and get beaten by Arsenal, it's really scary for them. So whatever they do in the next 12 days, they've got to get it right.
Yeah, they've got to hope whoever is leading them out the following weekend, is the right person to galvanise them for this.
I think they'll stay up.
I don't know.
That was Odds Law. I've been your host, Lola Katz-Roberts, and thank you, as always, to Ian McIntosh for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
We will see you next week.